Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hilda panel at New York Comic Con Home Edition. I'm Emerald Wright-Collie, producer on the Hilda series, and I'm so excited to be here with the creative team to talk about the making of season 2, which premieres on Netflix this December. Let's go around and introduce everyone. Starting with the folks in England, Luke Pearson, the creator of Hilda. Luke is the writer and artist of the Hilda graphic novels and is a co-executive producer and writer on this show. Welcome, Luke. Bella Ramsey, the voice of Hilda. Bella is best known for her role as Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones HBO and Mildred Hubble in The Worst Witch, CBBC and Netflix. Her film roles include Judy playing Lorna Luft alongside Renee Zellweger and Resistance playing the lead child Elspeth alongside Jesse Eisenberg. She is next to appear in the second series of His Dark Materials as Angelica. Welcome, Bella. In Canada, we have Andy Coyle, the Emmy-nominated director of the Hilda series. Andy is based in Canada at Mercury Filmworks Studio. He is a real-life dad and possibly David's dad as well. The similarities are truly uncanny. Welcome, Andy. And in LA, head writer and co-executive producer Stephanie Simpson. Stephanie is an Emmy, Bafta, and Annie Award-winning writer-producer of shows such as Octonauts, Arthur, Postcards from Buster, and Wishbone. So good to see everybody here. Let's get right into it. We've got a sneak peek of the new season 2 title sequence to share, and here it is. Yay!
Total madness.
Right. You just get glimpses. I will never stop dancing to that theme song. It's so good. So Luke and Stephanie, in season 1, Hilda's journey is from the northern wilderness to Trollberg, where she has to make human friends and find adventures where she can. What should we expect her journey to look like in season 2? Luke, why don't we start with you and then to Stephanie?
Sure. Well, she's a kind of a fully fledged Trollberg citizen now, and you can expect her to kind of keep being curious and exploring and kind of discovering more of what Trollberg has to offer. She's going to meet a boatload of new creatures and characters, and I guess one big thing about this season is she's kind of going to come up against an antagonist for the first time, like a real antagonist who's kind of her opposite in the form of the leader of Safety Patrol, who, if you remember, are the guys who kind of tried to kidnap Jellybean at the end of season 1. So that's kind of running through the season.
That's really exciting. Stephanie?
Yeah, no, there's not much to add there, except that I think it's really fun this season to see Hilda finally taking control of her life in Trollberg, and in true Hilda fashion, feeling like, there's some things that need to be changed. And she's the kind of girl who's not afraid, to jump in there. And so many of the adventures are really coming from her sense of confidence now about her friendships and about living in Trollberg and really feeling a part of the community. So I think that's a really fun aspect of this season. And it helps all of us get to kind of look at Trollberg in a different light too. We're finding out more about the nooks and crannies, finding out more about the history of the city, finding out more about what this wall is all about and who it's really keeping in and keeping out. So yeah, and I think it's fun that her antagonist in this season is a human. So in typical Hilda fashion, she doesn't find trolls intimidating or as annoying as most people do. She finds other people to be the biggest problem. So I think that's a really fun aspect of it. Also, Frida and David, we get to find out sort of new dimensions to them and their personalities, because obviously being friends with Hilda has rocked their world. So now we kind of get to see how it gets rocked and what that means to them, and their friendship. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And so, Andy, from an animation perspective, what are you most excited about in season 2, and what were the biggest animation challenges you and your team faced?
I mean, it's a complicated question because season 2 is so big and varied. It's not like one thing. It's a whole bunch of different, trying out different ideas and having fun with different takes on some just flavors for new adventures. We didn't want to do the exact same thing that we were doing in season 1, so we tried to vary it up as much as possible. And I think obviously there were some pretty big challenges in terms of just realizing some of these, like there's big action set pieces, there is big ambitious scope ideas, especially for a TV show, but really, like, I think perhaps the most challenging thing on the show is the same that it's always been, in that it's like the smaller, quieter, more subtle stuff that we try to do on the show, the stuff that makes the show a little different and itself, just the subtleties of a scene with just like 2 characters in it having a sincere emotional exchange, and just how you communicate that through little expressions and tight close-ups on their faces and things. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that's actually way harder to pull off than having a horde of monsters all in a giant chaotic kinetic action set piece.
It's always good to know that it seems like in settling into Trollberg, so from what Luke and Stephanie said, and Andy, you too, Hilda is really settling into Trollberg, and in that is finding new adventures, maybe a horde of monsters. That sounds so exciting. So staying on the theme of growth and change, Bella, how has Hilda grown or changed in your mind from season 1 to season 2? And what are the biggest challenges of playing this character?
I think she's grown in resilience. Like, she had a lot of resilience when she was living in the wilderness, but it was very limited. It was just what she knew. She was never exposed to like new challenges other than creatures, which she was very used to. So I think when she moved to Trollberg, again, even just right from the beginning, she was having to overcome these challenges, and we see that throughout the whole of series 1 and leading into series 2. And I think especially with her relationships, like, she's had to learn to make friends. She's had to learn what it is to be friends with people, not just survive by herself. So I think that, like, learning how to manage those relationships and learning what it means to be a friend as well as riding a bike, she's had loads of varied challenges. And I think she's definitely grown in resilience, and as a person I just feel like she's grown up really.
It does sound like that. And you bring so much life to this character, truly. And so I'm curious, how similar would you say you are to the character of Hilda?
I like to be adventurous. I like to think I'm like free-spirited like Hilda, but then sometimes when it comes to like a big adventure or challenge, I can get a bit scared. But in those moments, I think, what would Hilda do? I genuinely thought that in the past when I've come to something that's like been an obstacle, I just think about how Hilda would deal with it, and then it's fine. But no, I think we're quite similar in the fact that I'm quite open-minded. I'm quite up for any challenge, just like Hilda. The difference is, maybe she's slightly more adventurous than I am, just slightly.
And so Bella, what would you say is the difference between voice acting, like you do with Hilda, and then live action acting?
I think the main difference is trying to convey everything that would normally be in your face in your voice. That's probably the biggest challenge, is to try and get across your emotions through like verbally, through like the tone of your voice. But that's where Dave Peacock, our sound director, really comes in, and he really helps get that out of me and the rest of the cast. And also, you can turn up in your joggers, in your pajamas, and you can wear no shoes. Like, there's no makeup or costume or anything. So that's one of the biggest differences as well. It's a lot more chilled. There's no real time stress. And if it's hot outside, you're in an aircon studio, which I also really appreciate. But yeah, just like trying to get everything that would normally be in your face, in your voice. That's the biggest difference, I think.
I feel like it's always, also it's always just fun to see yourself animated. I don't know if you remember maybe like the first time that you saw Hilda animated and that was your voice attached to it. I feel like it's always a really fun experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So from acting, right? Bella touched on records and acting to the writing process. Stephanie and Luke, can you both talk about the writing process on this show and how you break and build stories, given that you're both on separate continents? Stephanie, let's start with you and then to Luke.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, Luke is usually willing to get on a plane for a very long time and come to Los Angeles, where we sit in some weird house somewhere that we rent, and we we sit around a table with a lot of snacks for a couple of days. And during that time, we kind of plot out together the overall arc. We come to the room with ideas and feelings, even sometimes weird images, like an onion guy who pops out of the ground. I mean, that could be a simple thing. We can start with an image, and from that image, we build the story. Sometimes we have a little piece of folklore that's just so weird that we have to include that. And so during those couple of days, 2 to 3 days, we just throw out a lot of ideas and we write them on giant pieces of butcher paper. So we look like crazy people scribbling on walls. Then we go away and we sleep for a couple of days. And then we kind of start, I write up an overall, what did we come up with? Like, what are our overarching themes for the season? And we kind of, because we are in different time zones and different continents, we just either get on Skype or Zoom, or we just email back and forth. Fortunately, we have a good mind meld going, I think. So it's really kind of feels very organic and natural. And I do feel always connected to Luke, to the material, no matter how far away we are from each other. So after we get that general concept, we kind of break it down. We know we've got 14 episodes to tell a story. We've got 13 episodes to tell a story. And I try to kind of plot out where we're going to do the episodes that have the big turning points, right? And then in between, where are we going to have these episodes where we just unpack some interesting character things, some interesting growth for the characters, or a creature that doesn't fit into our giant arc. And then Luke goes, "Oh my God, what have I done? I should just keep writing books." No, I'll throw it to Luke, but that's a general view of how we work.
Yeah, I don't really know what to add to that. I guess, yeah, the big exciting part is going to LA and we, coming up with all these crazy ideas in kind of like a haze of snacks, as Stephanie touched on. And then then I go home. Then there's a long process of basically doing this. Most of it's on Skype or Zoom, just kind of going back over what we did, thinking about like, wow, what that seemed to make sense then. Now it doesn't make sense. Now we can have we'll spend another few weeks trying to figure this out again. And slowly over time, it all comes together. And it's just lots of back and forth between us and between the other writers as well.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it all gets done.
Somehow it does.
Hopefully it's good.
Yeah, hopefully good. It's kind of like the process of making a pearl inside of a clam or an oyster or whoever makes the pearls. You got the little irritating grain of sand, and then you just keep building very lovely iridescent material around it until finally you're like, oh, it's a pearl, it's a story, this is going to work. And then we also like to think, how could we make Andy's life difficult? How could we do something that's impossible to do in 22 minutes, that is huge and cinematic, and yet also small and personal? So that's very important. Andy, I just want you to know that we think of you as
I
we're working.
appreciate it. I definitely appreciate that.
Andy, so at what point do you enter this snack driven connected story process, and I'm curious, has it been affected in any way, having to work from home during the pandemic?
Well, I jump in when we've got a couple of drafts done on the stories, and we start trying to, well, at least I start trying to wrap myself around the idea, to visualize it, and to start to imagine and dream out, like, how am I going to make this work? Where is like the appeal in these stories? How can we really hone down and drill down on what is going to be something that I can believe in and that I understand and know how to bring to an audience in a way that's going to be effective and connect with them. And I think the whole, working from home thing has definitely had some challenges in terms of production, especially. But I think we all work remotely anyway on a lot of our interactions because we're all spread out to different corners of the planet. So we're fairly adapted to that kind of a thing. And it's been able to be, I would say, probably one of the smoother adjustments. I know there's probably a lot of people who aren't so lucky to be able to manage in this way, where we were able to kind of just keep moving forward, keep working on stuff, and just change, a little bit of the specifics of the day-to-day stuff.
That's great. I feel like there's so much connectedness just between, obviously all of us, Bella's amazing performance, and Luke and Stephanie with the writing, and Andy bringing everything to life. And so just sitting under this writing umbrella a little more, Luke, season 1 wove in the first 4 graphic novels. Most of season 2 is off book. Has that been liberating, terrifying?
A bit of both. So it's kind of like, the prospect of coming up with lots of new stories as a team is quite exciting. It kind of takes the pressure off a bit, and I kind of like being able to kind of throw out some seeds of ideas and let Stephanie and everyone else help actually turn them into something good, like rather than with comics, sometimes I'll have an idea and then it's mainly me just agonizing over it for a long time. So that's cool, and developing those stories in a way, it's nice to feel like less precious about them and be quite open to see where they go. That's a nice feeling. But then on the other hand, there's also this kind of the constant feeling of wanting to make sure they feel true to what I was trying to do with the books while being their own thing. So there's a line to walk there. But doing this season wasn't hugely different to the first season, because a good chunk of that was new material as well. And this, we're not entirely off book. We're still kind of within the books. And I don't want to spoil exactly how it all pans out, but up to this point, the series kind of feels, in my mind, like a very expanded version of the story that's told in the books. It is obviously like encompassing a great deal more characters than the books do.
That's awesome. So we've talked about the writing process and what that looks like, and no one knew, but it looks like snacks. Is what it sounds like.
All about the snacks, 100%.
The
Yes.
snack-fueled mania.
It is snack-fueled mania, yes. It's all about the jorts, people.
It's all about the
I didn't
joke.
care so much about the jorts.
Which is hilarious. That was actually just a joke that we had when we were doing season 1
Yeah.
story meetings that just got out of hand and has become like a mainstay in the show.
Yeah.
Sounds vaguely Scandinavian.
Things take on a life of their own. You can't resist it. You just have to go with it.
Can't stop the jorts. So from the writing process now to design, let's look at some season 2 location designs and talk, Luke and Andy, about the visual process of the show. So our first design is from episode 205, The Windmill. And Luke, what was your inspiration for this location? What did you want it to feel like?
Well, I wanted it to feel like an old windmill, which I hope it achieved that. Yeah, well, the inspiration for this and kind of the episode as a whole was the old Disney short, The Old Mill. That was kind of a point of reference for this. Beyond that, like it's really it's a rundown old windmill in the middle of the forest, and I don't want to give away too much about it, but the idea is that it's kind of abandoned and falling apart, but kind of strangely cozy on the inside. Yeah,
and I would also say a good point of reference there too was sort of a Frankenstein homage, which I don't know, that is enough to say about that. You don't want to give too much away, but what that might mean.
Our lips are sealed. So next we have another location design, and this one's from episode 203. And so Luke, I have to ask, how did you imagine this Witch's Tower being integrated into Trollberg?
Well, the Witch's Tower is a location we kind of talked about previously. Kind of appears on the old map I did of Trollberg. But it turns out that's actually a piece of false information. The idea is in Trollberg that the Witch's Tower is this kind of known about mysterious location that no one's ever really been able to pin down, which seems strange because it's a tower. But the truth is the tower actually extends downwards from its base under the ground from the library, it would seem, from this sketch. And you can read whatever implications you want to out of that.
Yeah, it's definitely a interesting piece of folklore, this idea that the legend of the Witch's Tower sort of floats around Trollberg and whispers, and could it be in the Huldra Wood? Could it be wherever? We don't know where this thing is, and then the sort of reveal that it's actually inverted and not standing upright, which is structurally something that was fairly fun to play with visually, and you can see even just in some of the artwork there that we're presenting the fun of the scope of just this massive column of complex structures and staircases and catacombs, and just having fun with that, and also where it leads, which is an interesting notion.
This design is so much fun. It's so much fun to look at. Bella, one last question for you. Fans of the show know you as the voice of Hilda, but I have to ask, is it true that you also play Hamster Hat?
It's true. I play Hamster Hat and Margie, the little squeaky, snotty, stuffed brat. Not stuffed, I mean like nose-wise. I play Hamster Hat and her. I always love it when I go through the script and I see that Hamster Hat and Margie have got a few lines. Yeah.
So many fun characters. And have you made any other creative contributions to the show?
This series actually, there's a bit of a story here. So Dave Peacock, our sound guy, we were talking about how Hilda never learns from her mistakes. And he said, "Oh, Belly, you should write a song about that." So I took that literally. And I did, in fact, write a song about the first line is, "I'm Hilda and I don't learn from my mistakes." And this song is actually crazily going to be in a bit of, I think it's in part of the title bit or the ending for one of the episodes, which is crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna use it for the end titles for one of the episodes.
Okay.
And, it's really awesome. It's a
Sounds
super
so
fun,
special.
cute song.
I'm just amazed that it came from an idea and now it's an actual thing.
Everyone, there wasn't a dry eye when we heard that song. Like it meant so much. It was such a special song. It's so great. We really love it a lot. So there's so much to look forward to in season 2. And because we know this has been a long wait, we would like to show one more Comic-Con exclusive sneak peek of season 2. Luke, knowing that you wanted to do a Twig-centered episode, is there anything you want to say to set us up for this clip?
Just that this is an episode, it's from an episode about Twig and kind of shows things from his point of view for a change. So, you know, Hilda's moved to Trollberg. She's made a lot of new friends. She goes to school. She's joined the Sparrow Scouts. And Twig can't necessarily take part in all of these things, being a pet. He's generally not allowed. So, you know, he's starting to feel like maybe the move to a upstairs flat hasn't been as great for him as it has been for Hilda and her mom.
So here it is.
Where should we go?
Ooh, that was
Wow. Cut it off right before it was gonna get awesome.
That was our sneak peek of season 2. Even more reason to go to the Gund website and order your very own Hilda plush so you can hold them tight. Just a reminder, season 2 will premiere on Netflix this December. And as a very last question for everyone to close this out, how would you describe season 2 in a few words?
Adventurous, for sure.
Just great.
Just great. That's a good one, Luke. I like that one. I don't know. That's a very hard question to answer. It is exciting, I will say that, and hopefully very satisfying too.
I would use some of Hilda's words and say that it is traumatic, but such is the life of an adventurer.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up.
Definitely.
Well, thank you all so much for joining the Hilda Comic-Con at Home edition panel. I really appreciate, and it was really good seeing everybody as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you guys.
Thanks.
Nice.
Thank you, everyone.